Ladies and gentlemen, there is a subtle, almost tragic art to the life of a narcissist. A solitary dance, one might say, where they pirouette around their own shadow, always seeking, never quite satisfied. It is in these moments of isolation, when no one is watching, that we often find them at their most vulnerable, or at their most dangerous. A narcissist, when alone, engages in a quiet and subtle act of rewriting their history, a process that shapes not just their view of themselves, but how they believe the world should see them. This act is not one of simple recollection, but of reinvention. They become the editor of their own narrative, altering details, reimagining events, and revising the script of their past to fit a more flattering portrayal. In their solitary moments, they step into the role of both author and actor, painting themselves as the hero or, at times, as the misunderstood victim, but never the villain. What is truly striking about this process is how carefully they select the events that will form their new story. The narcissist without an audience has no need to hold on to truth, for truth is malleable in their world. They find it easier to look at the things they've done, the decisions they've made, and rewrite them to serve their need for superiority. A conversation that might have once been awkward or confrontational becomes a heroic exchange in their mind, where they were calm and measured, while others acted out of turn. An opportunity missed is recast as an opportunity sabotaged by others, never a consequence of their own inaction. This rewriting of history isn't simply about inflating their own achievements or cloaking their shortcomings in a flattering light. It goes deeper, into the very essence of their identity. The narcissist, in their aloneness, turns their past into a story that shields them from feelings of inadequacy. They construct a persona that is invulnerable, that was always right, that always knew best. Every failure becomes an outlier, every success a confirmation of their innate brilliance. They might find themselves recollecting a long-ago conversation, one that perhaps was riddled with mistakes or misunderstandings, and in their mind they've altered it, making themselves appear wise, gracious, and composed, while others stumble in ignorance. This is not an act of mere vanity or self-deception. It is a desperate attempt to maintain an image, an armor, against the harsh realities of self-doubt that can creep in when no one else is around. For the narcissist, identity is fragile. Without the audience to applaud, to reflect back to them their desired image, they risk vanishing into the void of insignificance. Thus, they reconstruct their life's timeline with meticulous care, stitching together the patchwork of past experiences into a tapestry of greatness, or at least of righteousness. But this isn't just about past achievements or relationships. It also extends to their perception of others in their narrative. Their history becomes not just about what they've done, but about how others have responded to them, how others have misunderstood them, or, more likely, how others have failed them. A conflict that might have once been a mere disagreement turns into an assault on their character. They become the eternal martyr, surrounded by ignorant, uncaring individuals who simply cannot understand the magnificence of their own intellect or soul. The idea that others might have been hurt by their words or actions is dismissed, or, in some cases, forgotten altogether. After all, in their retelling, they were never the aggressor, only the one who endured. In these moments of solitude, the narcissist doesn't just rewrite events for the sake of their own comfort. It's a deeper survival tactic. To face their past with all its flaws, mistakes, and missteps would be too painful. It would reveal that they, too, are human, that they, too, are vulnerable to the same failures and uncertainties as anyone else. To confront that reality would shatter their carefully constructed persona, one built on the fragile foundation of superiority. So, instead of embracing the truth of who they are, they push it aside and create something more palatable, a mythos, that will protect them from the abyss of self-doubt. This is why, in their solitude, they are never truly alone. Their thoughts are constantly engaged in a battle to reshape the past and bend it to their will. And in doing so, they avoid confronting the greatest fear they hold, the fear that they are not, in fact, special or exceptional, that they are just like anyone else, vulnerable to failure, to loss, to heartbreak. So they rewrite their history again and again until it becomes the only truth they can bear. The narcissist, in their own mind, becomes something greater than they were or ever could be. And, while this may grant them temporary relief, it leaves them trapped in a perpetual cycle of self-deception, one that, ironically, prevents them from ever truly seeing themselves as they are. In the stillness of their solitude, the narcissist continues to chase the validation that eludes them in the presence of others. Even when no one is around to witness, they seek that intangible sense of approval, an affirmation that their worth has not only been recognized but celebrated. It is not enough for them to simply exist or to know that they have value. They must feel that their value is acknowledged, reflected back to them through the admiration or even the envy of others. This insatiable need does not vanish when they are alone. Rather, it amplifies in the silence, filling the space with an ever-growing hunger for recognition. They can't hide, like musicians and sophisticated spies. In these moments, the narcissist does not simply rest in quiet introspection. They are endlessly replaying scenes of past triumphs, digging through memories for those precious moments when they stood at the center of attention, basking in the glow of admiration. They recite their achievements, not to relive the experience, but to affirm to themselves that they were, indeed, worthy of applause. Their mind races, revisiting old conversations, basking in the praise they once received, nurturing that fragile sense of being seen. If no one is physically present to reflect their brilliance, they recreate these moments mentally, filling the silence with echoes of their imagined applause. And yet, even as they relive their glories, the narcissist is keenly aware of what's missing. The validation that would once come in the form of admiration from the world around them. Without it, they feel adrift, their sense of worth hanging precariously by a thread. So, even in isolation, they seek new ways to feel seen. They might check social media obsessively, seeking likes, comments, and the fleeting approval of virtual strangers. They might return to old emails or texts, rereading the words of praise or compliments that once bolstered their fragile ego. It's as if their mind cannot rest until they feel that someone, somewhere, has recognized their greatness once again. Without this validation, they feel empty, like an actor without an audience, performing in a vacuum. But this need for recognition is not limited to past glories. The narcissist also craves affirmation of their present self, and they seek this in ways both subtle and overt. Alone, they may practice their speech or rehearse a future conversation, carefully crafting responses that will elicit admiration from others when the time comes. They imagine the words they will say, envisioning how others will react, praise, awe, or respect. And in these moments, they temporarily fill the void. Even as they stand alone, they fantasize about future moments of acclaim, as if those moments are already unfolding in their minds. These imagined scenarios become a form of self-contexture, a mental performance that offers some relief from the absence of external acknowledgement. In fact, the narcissist's very sense of self becomes entangled with the need for external validation. Their identity is not a stable inner sense of self, but rather a construction built on the approval and admiration of others. When this is absent, they feel the ground beneath them begin to shift. The emptiness they experience in isolation isn't just the absence of company, it is the absence of the mirror that reflects back their desired image. is they begin to question if they are truly valuable if there is no one around to confirm it. It is as though they cannot exist in their own skin unless others acknowledge their worth. In this way, their sense of identity is fragile, forever in need of external reinforcement. It is in these moments of isolation, however, that the narcissist's need for validation also becomes a double-edged sword. For while they might seek it desperately, they also disdain it, particularly when it comes from sources they deem beneath them. Compliments from the wrong people, the ones they consider inferior or unimportant, are dismissed, as though they are meaningless. This paradox creates a cycle of hunger that can never be fully sated. The validation they seek is not just any validation. It must come from the right sources, the people they deem worthy of acknowledging their greatness. And when that doesn't come, they sink deeper into a sense of frustration and self-doubt, even if they will never admit it aloud. The solitude becomes a stage for their internal performance. Alone, they continue to look for signs that their greatness is real, that they have not disappeared from the world's gaze. They might turn their thoughts inward and in doing so feed themselves with the images of their own superiority, but this is no true satisfaction. They continue to hunger for the presence of an audience, for someone, anyone, to remind them that they are seen, that they matter. This ceaseless quest for validation, even in isolation, is both a sign of their deep need for recognition and a reflection of their inability to validate themselves from within. Their self-worth is tethered not to their own internal sense of accomplishment, but to the perception of others. The absence of this perception leaves them adrift, constantly seeking, but never finding, the peace that can only come from within. It is this insatiable need that traps them in a cycle of empty pursuits, always striving to fill a void that only the truth of self-awareness can resolve. In the quiet solitude of their own minds, a narcissist engages in an unsettling and calculated rehearsal of emotional manipulation. Alone, they practice the subtle art of control, honing their skills like an actor perfecting lines for a play, where the audience is never present, but the performance is rehearsed endlessly. These moments are not simply about reliving old encounters. They are about refining the strategies that will ensure future victories, future ways of getting what they want from those around them. It is in these moments of isolation that the narcissist shapes the emotional armor they will wear when they step back into the world. The rehearsals are thorough. Every word, every gesture, every pause in a conversation is meticulously planned. They replay past interactions in their minds, considering how they might have influenced a person differently, how they might have planted seeds of doubt or guilt in someone else's mind to gain an upper hand. If they feel that a situation didn't go as planned, they'll dissect it until they find a way to reframe it, adjust it, or turn it in their favor. Each misstep becomes a learning opportunity, a chance to perfect the art of emotional manipulation for the next encounter. It is not enough for the narcissist to win. They must control the narrative, ensuring that others see things as they want them to be seen. In the absence of others, the narcissist has the freedom to fully engage with their emotions, rehearsing how to elicit specific responses from people. They practice invoking sympathy, perfecting the art of being a victim when it serves them, or crafting a performance that demands admiration. Perhaps they remember a moment when someone stood up to them, and in this silence they rehearse how they might turn that situation into one where they emerge as the wronged party. The narcissist knows that to control others, they must first understand what makes them tick, what triggers their emotions, and how to manipulate those triggers to their advantage. The act of emotional manipulation isn't always about overt power plays or grand gestures. Sometimes it's the smallest, most subtle moves that have the greatest impact. In solitude, the narcissist can perfect these delicate tactics, rehearsing how to use guilt or shame as tools to push others in the desired direction. They might imagine a conversation with a close friend or a partner and mentally prepare to introduce just the right amount of emotional weight to make the other person feel responsible for their discomfort. Perhaps they will practice the art of the perfect apology, one that shifts blame onto the other person while keeping themselves blameless. They refine how to ask for favors in a way that makes the other person feel compelled to comply, even when the request is unreasonable. In these solitary rehearsals, the narcissist becomes a master at playing with emotions. They know that people are complicated, and that, at the core, most people want to help, want to be seen as kind and generous. They use this knowledge to their advantage, manipulating others' compassion, kindness, or need for connection. They rehearse how to appear vulnerable when they need sympathy, or to show strength when they need to maintain an image of invulnerability. The narcissist is not interested in genuine connection or understanding. They are interested in influence, how to make others feel and behave in ways that serve their own needs. In moments of deeper reflection, the narcissist might also practice emotional manipulation on themselves. They will rehearse self-pity, imagining the injustices they've suffered, convincing themselves that the world has wronged them, that they are owed something by others. This self-manipulation serves as both a shield and a weapon. It justifies their behavior to themselves and becomes a narrative they can use to manipulate others. If they feel slighted by someone, they will internalize that slight until it festers, until they have a reason to claim victimhood and demand attention or compensation. This cycle of self-deception keeps them tethered to their own narrative, creating a justification for their actions and a reason to manipulate others into supporting them. It is in these private moments that the narcissist cultivates a false sense of superiority. Alone, they practice how to emotionally dominate the room when they return to it, knowing that their manipulation will often go unnoticed or be dismissed as just part of their charm. They understand the dynamics of human interaction in a way that allows them to remain one step ahead, to hold control over conversations, to make people feel sorry for them, or, alternatively, to make them feel inadequate and in need of approval. The manipulation isn't about open confrontation. It's about knowing how to make others bend to their will without them even realizing it. The most insidious part of this process is how the narcissist never truly engages with others on a level of true vulnerability or honesty. Their entire emotional life is spent in performance, calculating how to present themselves to others in ways that guarantee a desired outcome. They may never truly express what they feel because their feelings are tools for creating a narrative that others will buy into, a story where they are always at the center, always deserving of more. And when they are alone, in their quietest moments, they are polishing their techniques, ensuring that when they re-enter the world, they will be able to manipulate emotions with the grace and precision of a seasoned artist. In the silent chambers of a narcissist's mind, there exists a constant, turbulent swing between two extremes, grandiosity and self-loathing. Alone, where there is no audience to keep them tethered to the image they project, they are forced to face the rawness of their own thoughts, and in doing so, they find themselves caught in an unrelenting tide that rises and falls without warning. These moments of introspection are not peaceful. They are chaotic, shifting between towering self-importance and deep, overwhelming doubt. It is a psychological pendulum that swings between the belief that they are exceptional, deserving of admiration, and the crushing realization that perhaps they are not the person they have long pretended to be. When the narcissist mind drifts into grandiosity, it is as though they are transported to a realm where they are beyond compare, the center of the universe, unrivaled in their brilliance. In their solitude, they gaze inward and see only greatness reflected back at them. It is as if the mirror of their own psyche has been polished to reveal a godlike image, untouchable, powerful, and indispensable. Their talents, their intellect, their beauty, their charm, everything they possess becomes amplified beyond ordinary measure. In these moments, they are the most capable, the most deserving, and anyone who has ever doubted them is made invisible in the face of their superiority. It is not just confidence, it is a deep-seated belief that they are exceptional, that the world would fall apart without them, that they alone hold the key to everything. But this grandiosity is never permanent. Like the rising tide that must eventually recede, it ebbs away, leaving behind something far darker. The narcissist, in the depths of their solitude, is forced to confront their humanity, and in doing so, they begin to sink into self-loathing. The momentary rush of superiority fades, and they are left with the unbearable reality that they are, in fact, vulnerable and imperfect. The grand image they've cultivated begins to crack, and the flaws they've worked so hard to hide from the world, sometimes even from themselves, emerge in full force. They begin to question everything. Are they truly as great as they've told themselves they are? Or are they nothing more than a fraud, desperately seeking approval from others because they lack a solid foundation of self-worth? This oscillation is dizzying, each swing of the pendulum making the narcissist feel as if they are being torn apart. In one moment they believe they can conquer the world. In the next they are consumed by feelings of worthlessness, convinced that they have been a failure all along. The sense of superiority that they've cultivated is so fragile that it can shatter in an instant, and when it does, the narcissist is left grappling with an emptiness that no amount of external admiration can fill. They may turn inward and replay their past decisions, looking for signs of greatness that now feel distant, even elusive. And in those quiet moments, the enormity of their flaws feels almost unbearable. They ask themselves, what if I am not enough? What if all of this is a lie? But even in these moments of self-loathing, there is an unspoken desire to reclaim their place at the center of the world. They may try to console themselves by reaffirming their grandiosity, reminding themselves of their brilliance, their uniqueness, and their inherent worth. It becomes a cyclical struggle, an attempt to rebuild the inflated image they've created, only to watch it crumble again. This push and pull between inflated self-worth and deep insecurity is what fuels the narcissist's emotional volatility. In solitude, where there are no others to distract them, this battle is fought internally, with the narcissist caught between the need for external validation and the fear that they will never truly measure up. The shift from grandiosity to self-loathing is not simply an emotional response, it is a survival mechanism. The narcissist uses their grandiose self-achievement as a shield, protecting themselves from the sting of vulnerability. When they are alone, stripped of the adulation and admiration of others, they are forced to confront the truth, that their self-worth has never truly come from within. It has always been contingent upon how others perceive them, how others affirm their greatness. Without that external validation, they are left to wrestle with the harsh reality that their identity is fragile, that their belief in their own supremacy was, in many ways, a construct to avoid the pain of feeling unimportant, unnoticed, or ordinary. The irony of this oscillation is that both grandiosity and self-loathing serve the same purpose: to avoid facing the core of who they truly are. When they are lifted up in the clouds of grandiosity, they are shielded from the weight of their own insecurities. When they are down in the pit of self-loathing, they are desperately trying to avoid the fact that they feel unworthy, unremarkable, and, at times, both states are extremes that allow the narcissist to avoid the middle ground, the quiet, steady place of self-acceptance and genuine self-worth. In solitude, the narcissist is forced to reckon with these conflicting parts of themselves, though they may never fully understand or reconcile the tension. The grandiose self they project to the world is often just a mask that, in moments of quiet introspection, begins to slip, and beneath it, they are left with the raw, unsettling truth of their own vulnerability. Yet, as the pendulum swings between these two extremes, they are continually searching for something outside themselves to restore their sense of identity. It is a never-ending quest to feel that they matter, to feel that they are enough, and to avoid the terrifying possibility that they might not be. In the stillness of their solitude, the narcissist retreats into a world of fantasies, grandiose, powerful, and completely under their control. It is a refuge, a sanctuary, where they are not subject to the limitations of reality or the judgments of others. In this space, they are invincible, commanding, and revered. Alone, they foster dreams of power that stretch beyond their current circumstances, imagining themselves as leaders, as rulers of vast domains, both in the literal and metaphorical sense. In these imagined worlds, they are not merely participants. They are the architects of destiny, the ones who decide how everything unfolds. The fantasies of power and control that the narcissist creates are not idle daydreams. They are essential to their sense of self. These imagined scenarios become a way for them to reclaim the dominance they feel is owed to them, to reaffirm their belief in their own superiority. It is a mental game, a way to control their own narrative when the real world refuses to bend to their desires. In these fantasies, they are the master of every situation, the one who dictates the course of events with a mere glance, a wave of the hand. They are untouchable, admired, and adored by all who encounter them. It is a world where their every decision is followed without question, where their opinions shape the very fabric of existence, and where they are held in awe by those around them. But the need for power in the narcissist's mind is not about true leadership or the well-being of others. It is about control over their environment, over their relationships, and, most profoundly, over how they are perceived by the world. They yearn for a sense of dominance that confirms their worth, a belief that they are, in fact, the most important person in the room. In their fantasies, they do not struggle with doubt or insecurity. They are flawless, their every move calculated and flawless, their desires fulfilled without hesitation. They are not passive observers of the world. They are the ones who shape it, bend it to their will, and watch it respond in reverence. The fantasies are often so vivid that they feel real to the narcissist, so much so that they can almost taste the power they imagine. They envision themselves in positions of influence, where every decision they make is not only followed but celebrated. In these dreams, they are not just ordinary people. They are kings and queens, CEOs, celebrities, icons of success. They are the ones people turn to for guidance, the ones whose every word carries weight and meaning. It is in these moments of imagined power that the narcissist feels truly alive, when they can close their eyes and picture the world adoring them, bowing before them, hanging on their every word. But this need for power is not just a pursuit of external accolades. It is also an attempt to control the most vulnerable parts of themselves. For the narcissist, power becomes a defense mechanism, a shield against the nagging feelings of inadequacy that they are so often plagued by. They cannot tolerate weakness, either in themselves or in others. If they cannot control their own emotions or actions, they must control the world around them, bending people and circumstances to match the image they wish to project. In these fantasies, they can escape from the uncertainty of who they truly are, retreating into a world where their flaws do not exist and their weaknesses are never exposed. Power becomes the ultimate cure for their deep-rooted fears, the fear that they are not enough, that they will be overlooked, or that they will be rendered insignificant. And yet, the fantasies are never truly satisfying. They provide only temporary relief from the insecurities that plague the narcissist's heart, never offering lasting peace. The more they indulge in these imagined worlds of power, the more they thirst for them, because the reality of their lives rarely matches the grandeur of their dreams. In the real world, they are forced to confront limitations, rejection, and the realization that they cannot control every aspect of their existence. But in the realm of fantasy, they are supreme, and for a moment, they can escape the uncomfortable truths of their vulnerability. These fantasies are not just an internal escape, they also shape how the narcissist interacts with others. In their mind, they believe they must assert their dominance over everyone they encounter, bending others to their will as they do in their dreams. When they engage with people, it is often with the belief that they are entitled to control the situation, to mold it into something that serves their interests and reinforces their sense of self-importance. They are constantly looking for ways to exert influence, to be the one who decides how things will unfold, to be the one whose desires shape the course of events. In this sense, the fantasies of power and control are not limited to mere daydreams. They inform the narcissist's every action, every word, and every interaction. They may walk into a room and scan the faces of others, assessing how they can position themselves as the center of attention, how they can make others look to them for approval, or how they can subtly manipulate the dynamics to their advantage. It is as if the narcissist is always playing a game in which they are the winner, and everyone else is simply a pawn in their strategy. But no matter how powerful or controlling these fantasies may feel, they are ultimately a reflection of something deeper, a profound fear of being powerless, of being overlooked, or of being ordinary. The fantasies are a way for the narcissist to create a world where they are never vulnerable, where they are always in control and always at the top. It is an elaborate coping mechanism, a way to silence the voices of insecurity and doubt that threaten to rise to the surface.